one of the main objectives of our ministry for the agricultural sector. And that is something I always see in every remark that I have to give, any speech, I always put that there because this is paramount, and I think that is pertinent to all of us working in the ministry. We need to know what the objectives of the ministry is. Well, not the objective, we have how many, but we have the key ones. And one of the key objectives, and I have to reiterate that in every function that I attend, once you all are here, is to build a more secure, a more resilient, and a more sustainable agricultural sector. And the three key words we have are secure, food security, resilient, and sustainability. Okay? This is where we are going. All right? So we have to keep that in mind. All right? And again, another key thing, objective is to enhance the livelihoods of people, of farmers that we deal with on a day-to-day basis. All right? So we have to keep that at the forefront of our minds when we execute our duties on a day-to-day basis. All right? And this is the reason why we exist. This is the reason why the ministry exists. So this Tree-Crop expansion and rehabilitation project, it is centered around that. All right? I'm not sure whose brainchild it was, whether it is DAS or minister or former PS, or all three of you, right?
Everybody.
I came on board late. All right, but yes, I know it was their brainchild, and like Ms. Smith said, we had a lot. What we realized is that there were so many fallowed lands, because of the banana industry is not all what it is. It's not what it was before. So when we go around the island, you see a lot of fallowed lands. All right, so I think we came up with the idea. Hey, let's see whether we can encourage those landowners or farmers to go into that tree-crop project. All right, and this is exactly, like I said, why we are here. That exercise, the validation exercise, is to reveal and to tell us whether we are going to get that buy-in, whether they really want to take whether they will accept the decision to go into that, to take part in this project. So I honestly believe that once we are able to successfully implement this project, it will definitely contribute to this long-term goal of security, sustainability, and resilience, and also enhancing livelihoods. All right, so today I am very much elated and eager. Like I said, I won't be here for the whole day, but I'm still eager to hear the results of this survey, Ms. Kajada. All right, so I want to especially, again, thank you and your team for accepting this initiative. I know you went through the competitive bidding process and you won the bid. You got the but I want to thank you for a job well done, and I also want to thank my project coordinator or project manager, Ms. Sharon Smith, full of enthusiasm, energy. I know she can be a little pest sometimes because she's always in my office. I want to apologize, but it's good. Yes, the pestering is good. All right, it's healthy. I don't know for you, but I know for me it is. All right, but you're doing a great job so far. So this is just the first phase of the project. All right, and it was a critical phase because we want to see whether it's the feasibility. We wanted to understand the feasibility of that project, whether it's okay to go ahead with it. So this is what I am eager to hear from Ms. Kajada and her team as to what the revelation will be in that regard. So, like I said, it's the first step, and I don't want to preempt the budget because today is the first day of the debate of the estimates, but I am very much aware. I have not told the members of staff or management what it is that we have in the budget. I think some of you know, but I think we're getting some funding, Ms. Smith, to continue the project. I will not say how much when you go home today, watch the minister is speaking. I think Mr. Henry is speaking first and minister is speaking after. So go home this today, or when you go back home, go on YouTube and listen to minister. So you'll know how much money we will get in to continue this project, the next phase of this project. So we did the baseline survey, and then we will be engaging the farmers. We will be preparing the lands, signing MOUs with the farmers, and all. So these are some of the activities that will be taking place after we close this chapter of the baseline survey results. Okay? So again, I want to wish all of you participate in a very successful exercise, and I also want to thank everybody for showing up, especially, like I said, my extension officers. Yeah, but to the rest of you, do have a very. I hope your participation today is welcome, and I want to see this project succeed, and it cannot succeed without your input. All right, so I want to thank everybody and welcome. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Setaj. To provide an overview of the project and its significance, we now welcome the Director of Agriculture Services, Mr. Kemuel Shabaptist, to the podium. Let's give him a hearty welcome.
This particular project came about when Mr. Alfred Prosper came into office. Two ministers did that sort of thing when Mr. Ezekiel Joseph came in 2016. Was it 2016? Yes. He said, let's do something different. And we sat and we initiated what you now know as the 7 Crops Project. He said we wanted to do something different, something exciting, so we looked at 7 crops, and we were importing more than $1 million worth of these crops every year, so we said we're going to cut down the importation by 25%. That's in progress. So when we met, I sit on the Development Control Authority as a director representing agricultural interests, among other things, and I'm acutely aware of the seriousness of the transfer of lands, or the shift of lands out from agriculture into everything else. Some of it is warranted, and some of it is absolute madness. As one friend of mine, Mr. Calix George, once said to me, he said, if we do not protect agricultural lands, when the next big crop shows up, where are we going to plant it? Yes, it's true that bananas are on crutches, and yes, it's true that we are having difficulty identifying another sugar cane, another banana. Cannabis, maybe not. But when the next... Just saying, you know, if you've seen what I've seen cannabis do, cannabis caused psychotic episodes in 2 people who were very close to me, and we almost had to shoot them. You would not advocate cannabis very much. So, but whatever the next big crop is, Mr. Calix George said to me, what are you going to do? Where are you going to plant it? And so when I met with Minister, we agreed, we sat down and said, you know, what are we going to do to protect those lands? You would be surprised that people want to build churches, shopping malls, hotels, and massive complexes all in Roseau and Mabuya Valley and all the places where you have all these nice-looking banana fields. Added to that, you know, you would have seen the transition out of bananas right across Arthur Lewis Farm in Mabuya Valley to everything else but agriculture, and I get a lot of beating for that. I get beaten for sitting in tribunals and rejecting these ideas that these lands should go into other things. However, we agreed that one of the things that needs to happen is that we need to maintain agricultural activity on these lands. And so the issue of tree crops came up. And why tree crops? We have a number of areas where bananas thrived. For example, in Maho and some of these interior spaces that are not necessarily best suited for banana production because of the terrain and everything that it comes with in 2025. But not having any agricultural production in those areas means that these lands are going back into nothingness, or they are being left vulnerable to land slippage and everything else, or perhaps poor practices of growing short-term crops like dashing and so on. And so the idea is to go back into this community, into these areas, and establish tree crops as part of a number of reasons. One is agroforestry. We are faced with all the vagaries of climate change, so it's important that we stabilize these lands by ensuring that there is cultivation taking place, but not cultivation that disturbs the soil every year, but cultivation that will allow for stability of these soils. Additionally, exports in Lucia is here and well represented. We have a major challenge with export of tree crops. Now, you have heard the crops that were identified. Specifically mangoes, not all the mangoes, but some select varieties. We are yet to determine which those select varieties are, but I can tell you the cabbage would be one of those. Avocados, breadfruit, soursop. Coconut came in under the rug and found its place, so we're not going to fight with coconut. We let coconut be, right? But it was not part of the original. There were 4. Exporters trying to export mangoes, breadfruit, avocados, or soursop, the major challenge is the consolidation of the crop. In order to access a significant volume for export, an exporter has to get a truck and run around the country. He'll find 10 breadfruit trees in Labrie, 4 in Mabuya Valley, 6 in Soufrière, and perhaps 1 in Canaries. By the time he has gone around the country, these fruits are in the back of an open truck. They're exposed to the sun. By the time it gets to the port, excessive heat, he finds ripening, he loses out. The buyer on the other side sends a report that says your breadfruits were not good, and so after all his trouble, he gets less than 50% of expected returns. Everybody gets vexed, and the Ministry of Agriculture is called and asked, what are you doing? Yes? And so we recognize also that when you decide that you're going to export these crops, you have a problem of consolidation. Secondly, disease management. You drive from Union back through Grand Riviere into Corinth, and there's a mango tree in virtually every yard. I know you don't know that. But if you drove through, you'll see there are a lot of mango trees along that route from Union back through to Corinth. Yes? But all of these trees are in somebody's yard. Now, we have a number of disease problems with mangoes. You have mealybugs, you have tear stains, you have anthracnose. It requires management. But you are not able to walk into these yards with a mist blower and fog it. You are not able to put in any proper mechanism for managing it. So one of the things that this particular project will do to help to overcome some of these challenges will be, 1, we are going to go into areas where we need soil stability, Maho and other places. We will go into areas where bananas have become moribund, and the farmers are too old now to be doing the daily grind of bananas, but they will be able to go in with a small crew, maybe a few times a year, and ensure that their orchards are looked after. We are also intending that when you plant these fruit trees in pure stand, in a block, that when you go in, you are able to do disease and pest management in a block. One of the things that I need for the extension officers to remind the farmers, we are not interested in mixed cropping for this particular project. And let me explain what I mean. We are not interested in planting 5 avocado, 5 mango, and 5 whatever. We want a block at least 1 acre. We will work with half an acre, but preferably a minimum of 1 acre to be dedicated space for the specific crop. The farmer will have to determine which one of those crops are most suited for him or for her. Yes? And so part of the story here is to ensure that when an exporter shows up, that an exporter has a few trees, a plot from which he could harvest, from which the farmer could also make a prediction and say, well, based on what I'm seeing here, I'm expecting to have a ton of fruit, half a ton of fruit, a truckload of fruit, so you are better able to plan with your exporter and with your buyers on the other end. Part of what the project is also going to be doing is to support the farmer with labor at the initial and inception stages, to prepare digging holes, to prepare the land, and also to ensure that the crops are established. For those of you who have had tree crop projects before, sometimes we drop off the plants on the farmer's holding. It stays under the coconut tree, it stays under the mango tree, and it rots and dries up. We are not interested in that. The other thing that is going to happen with this project is that we are also intending to provide cover crop. You understand that tree crops, when they're established, mangoes, avocados, and so on, 3 to 5 years before it really gets to significant fruiting and bearing. So in between, we need a reason for the farmer to go back to the holding to ensure that these trees are looked after. So we have identified a couple of vine crops that would include sweet potatoes, pumpkins, and some other vine crops that do not require too much attention, but also it will provide covering so that it will control weeds, 1. 2, it will give the farmer a reason to go to the holding, because these crops would need some kind of care and attention. While they're investing in these temporary crops, the tree crops are also going to be looked after in terms of fertilization, treating them good, keeping the weeds away, to ensure that that our investments are not going to waste. So that is why you would have seen a component of the cover crops for this particular project. If you look in the project document, you'll also see labor support provided to the farmer, and the labor is to ensure that these crops are planted. We have propagation on board. Propagation is supporting the propagation of these tree crop seedlings, but also forestry, the forestry nursery at Millet is also providing support, and there's another nursery, and the one at Bath. So essentially, the Ministry of Agriculture's propagation station will be providing the planting material. What I want you to recognize, ladies and gentlemen, every time you take a step to do something, there are always those persons who tell you that it makes absolutely no sense. I've met some people who tell me, are we mad? Why are we doing this all over again? So I say to them, do you want us to just sit down and die? Do you just want us to sit down and let all the lands go to building everything else but agriculture? So you will find people who would ask you and question you on the philosophy of the project. The philosophy of the project is to ensure that these lands remain cultivated, that the persons who own these lands have a reason to go onto these holdings. And tree crops, if we decide tomorrow that cannabis is it, we just get a couple chainsaws and get rid of it, no? When your children turn 40 and you are 99, you could always clear it and do whatever else. But if the lands are not available, then nothing happens. I also want you to recognize that we rely on you to help the farmers to understand the philosophy of the project. When you are going to engage farmers, remind the farmer, and of course we'll have an arrangement, we need a minimum of 10-year commitment. We do not want anybody else participating in this project who's not willing to go the 10-year mark. And the reason is, it does not make sense to put all of this investment, and after 5 years you say, you know what, I changed my mind. It is going to be a waste of resources, it's going to be annoying, and a lot of other undesirable things. So in your interactions, please remind the farmer that we would love to have them commit that time in order for us to see results in this particular project. Let me thank Export St. Lucia for the continued support that they've given to us. They've come to us every time and asked, where are the mangoes, where are the breadfruits, where are the sourshops? We struggle to get it, so hopefully, as we plan forward, moving into the next 5 years, we will be able to direct exporters to very specific locations, very specific sites. These crops are expected to be planted in valley areas that have been abandoned, in upland areas where the farmers are not able to really cultivate bananas anymore. And if we stay steadfast and we stay focused, and thanks to our Prime Minister for seeing the value of this particular project and putting second-year investments in the project, we are going to see great motions in that space. We are really glad also Mr. Theophil is here. ICA has been supporting these initiatives, and we're looking forward to bringing Cardi on board as well. Cardi has extensive experience in tree crops regionally, and so we're going to bring all the players together to bear on this. Of course, I did not recognize it initially, but our food safety person is here. Part of the story also, yes, would be whatever does not meet export quality. We have a number of processors, the Forces-Jacques grouping, the Mikud cluster, among others. Part of the story is to also provide training to those agro-processors so that the fruits that do not make it to the export market, that they will be able to process it, and who better to guide what is required in terms of our food technologists, food safety specialists, in terms of providing the training that is required and ensuring that there is integration. I'm not sure how long I've been talking, so I'm going to shut up now. I feel like I've been talking a lot. So I'm going to stop talking now, and if you have any questions concerning the philosophy of the project or its overall objectives, feel free to ask myself or Ms. Sherian. We'll be happy to provide you further insight and guideline. With that, let me say thank you so much to everyone who's here today. It's interesting that Cox is doing exactly what we are planning. He's establishing a coconut plot near the river in Varna, and he's putting watermelon beneath that plot. Isn't that interesting? I know he's going to come back and beat me for not giving him free plants, but you know how Cox and I go. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much, and we're looking forward to a good discussion. Thank you for the work that you have put in. I heard everyone said it's a good report. Let's see how that goes when it's presented. Thank you very much.
This is going to be one of the key inputs to track the process. So KMA was recruited to do this baseline survey. What does this baseline survey, the results of a baseline survey tell you? It really establishes where you're at now in terms of the best possible means of collecting the data that we determined with your team that we needed to collect to inform the executors of the project, give them the information they want. And so we went through a very detailed process, even in the design phase. Many of you were involved in that, in determining the right questions to ask the farmers. How are we going to architecture this thing? And what you've done, which I really again want to thank you, in keeping with one of our core values at KMA, which is integrity. Working with you at best, and Melissa will delve deep into it, we were able to get the best possible data to maintain, of course, as data analysts, and Melissa is a key professional in that area. You need to ensure that integrity of the data, because the brain cannot decipher what's false or what's made up. It relies on the integrity of the people who collect it and the people who analyze it. It assumes that any information given to it is of good quality in order to influence decisions made. And that is what the role of validation is also about. What you heard today, to give us back the feedback. When you see the results, how it looks after it's analyzed, you are the ones in the field. You're closer to the issues. You know, you heard the director. He anecdotally, has a feeling after so many years working in this field and working with many of you, he knows that you know what the key issues are. But is the data going to be telling us the same thing? Now, in quality management, we speak of verification and validation. There are many means to verify and validate. Verification is our team people, the people who are collecting the data, going back and checking, yes, is that what the farmer told us? Or Melissa and Roger will be in touch with you. Are you sure you said that? That's what you meant to put in? For this baseline assessment, that was our verification. Today, we're checking to see now, does that resonate with you, with what you're feeling in the context in which you're operating? So let's take an example, for instance, for a car. A car has made, designed, and tested under conditions at the production plant that for safety features. To verify that, say, okay, the seat belt is working, or the new feature they put in is working. But the only person that can validate that safety feature is the driver on the road in the context of driving the cars. So that's the difference between what we did earlier in the project, the verification, and what we're doing today. When we want your minds, and it's so good that we have other people with us, other people in the sector who gets a feeling of how is that data we're seeing. Let's take breadfruit. We're seeing hardly any breadfruit. Well, our exports guy wants you to think of that. Is that coinciding with what we're seeing with the data we get from customs? Our ICA representatives, is that really, in your field, bring in your knowledge, bring in your experiences in every area you've worked in. It's going to bear and make today's session give the effectiveness that we really want out of the session so that we can finalize the report, hand it over, and sleep at night and say, yes, we are confident that our policymakers, our decision makers have the correct information to guide them in their decision-making processes, to guide them in their overall strategy. And strategy is a long process. It will take time. It changes. We know director said this idea started how many years ago? Almost a decade ago. But we want to see it established an as-is situation.